Hello, welcome to the Creative Writing Life podcast. I'm Justin Sloan.
And I'm Paul Zeidman, and it is just the two of us. And I also would like to add, this is our first episode of 2023.
That's right. That means we'll have to upload it kind of soon compared to when we normally do, huh?
That's one option. That is one
Yeah.
option.
I feel like we end up doing some of these like solos of us, and then we get a few guests on, and the guests are always like, "Can you post in like 2 weeks?" And then, or I feel like we shouldn't take too long on the guests, so that I get some of these duos that end up being posted way later than we intended.
Well, I especially like the one you did recently. That was like from July, because I think I started talking about my second
Oh
book
no.
just came out. That was like July. It's like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
that's what I'm saying. I was like, oh crap, there's one that we haven't posted yet.
I was
Oops.
going to say that one was gathering dust on the proverbial computer files.
Yes. What can we do?
Yeah. So was it a good holiday season around the Sloan household?
Oh yeah, I got some good writing done. I've actually leaned in hardcore. So some updates. I don't know how much I can get into, but certain things have changed in my life to where I have a little more free time, kind of, which means that I've been doing more focus on my own screenplays. So I'm at a point
Cool.
where this is kind of like a looking back too, on accident, but I'm at a point where I have probably 4 or 5 features that I feel are like good, on brand, ready to show people. I have a bunch of others that are either garbage or need some revision or just not on brand at all. But 4 or 5 that are like right in that zone. And so I say 4 or 5 because the fifth is kind of not, but it ties into my military background. So I think it's a good one to have in there.
Okay.
And yeah. And then I want to get I have some pilots done, but I want to get some amazing pilots that are also like in that brand for sure, ready to show people, no questions doubt. So that's what I've been focusing on right now.
Well, that's cool.
The
Yeah.
holiday
So
break has been great in that regard.
that's cool. Yeah. For me, like the last 2 months of 2022, I was splitting my time between my own spec and also this script that I've been working with this producer for their micro budget feature. So I was kind of like really just kind of okay, 2 days on mine, 2 days on his, and just kind of going back and forth, and finished his like mid-December. And then we had a discussion right before New Year's. He loved it. Just had like 4 or 5 notes, just little tweaks here and there. And so I was able to take care of those pretty quickly. And we're going to talk about it next week. And for mine, I must have done like, I think 3 rewrites between like mid-November. And I really was, and I can say this literally, I was working on New Year's Eve up until like 10 o'clock. Right. Because I just wanted to make sure I didn't think I was going to get that last rewrite done before the end of the year, the calendar year. And actually, I think I must have started like on the 28th, and I was just plowing through, and I thought I might actually be able to do this. And so we went out to dinner New Year's Eve, like 5 o'clock type of thing, and we were home by 7:30. And I said to my wife and my daughter, I said, are you okay if I work on this? Because I've only got like 35 pages to go. And they're like, yeah,
Only
go
35.
ahead. And then so I really thought it would only be like an hour. It ended up being like 2.5. But the important thing is I got it done by like 10 o'clock. So
Wait, did you do the whole 35 pages right then? Or
well, that was just like the last 35 pages of the script, because I'd been working my way to it. It was kind of like a rewrite / polish.
Okay.
And I was just I was making little tweaks and edits all the whole time. But I just wanted to finish it because it would just be such a sense of accomplishment, and I did. So nice. I sent it out to a trio of readers. I'm waiting to hear back from them. Sweet. And I'm like I said, talking to this producer next week. So it's a good start for the year. And what was really cool is there's another podcast I listened to called the Act 2 podcast, where these two working writers talk. Yeah. And they were their episode from this New Year's weekend was kind of, I think it's like new year, new plan or whatever. So their strategy for what they're going to accomplish. It was just really inspirational and motivational. And I tweeted about it. And they both liked it, which was nice. And our old friend P.T. Hilton also liked it. And so I kind of reconnected with him and had some questions for him about something he was working on. And it was just, it's just a good start to the year. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah. We also went to Legoland. We stayed in the hotel. Yeah, the actual Legoland hotel. So that was all fancy pants. And our first time doing that. And it's pretty expensive. And I probably won't do it again. But I agree. A lot of parents were like, it's so worth it. You got to do it. And I agree that it was pretty cool. But there were little things that pissed me off. Like they were like, oh, it's a buffet breakfast. And then you show up and they're like, oh, you have to wait 45 minutes. And
oh, man.
Oh, those 10 open tables over there. Yeah, just ignore that. And in spite of it, so I'm like, what? It's a buffet breakfast. There's 10 open tables. What's the problem? And there's like 2 families there waiting also. And we're like, why are we waiting
Wow.
for a buffet breakfast? It's not like you guys have to serve us. It's not like you have to do anything other than just say, okay, we'll get out of your way. So
Is this
little
like
things like
is
that.
it the Legoland Hotel or something?
Yeah, well, we stayed. There's 2 now, right? There's the original, and then there's the castle one, and they're both
Okay.
right there at the entrance. And so we stayed in the castle one, and it was cool. Like it's a whole themed room with like the Knights feeling and stuff. And there's
Hmm.
like a little scavenger hunt thing to do in the hotel. And our room was the closest you can get to the playground and the swimming pool, and the pool is heated all year round up to like 82 degrees or something like that.
Wow.
So it just feels like a hot tub when you get in there. It's great. So many bonuses to doing it, but yeah, I don't
I'm sure your
don't
kids
have to
loved
do it
it.
over
It's
and over
had a
again.
great time the entire time.
Yeah, except for on day 2, my son got an ear infection.
Oh no.
So yeah, so he woke up feeling kind of weird, and we're like, "What's going on?" He was like, "Just we had our stroller for our younger one, so he curled up inside the stroller, just like kind of took a nap the whole day, and then we took him
Wow.
to the doctor 2 days later, and it was yep, ear infection. So sucks.
Okay. Well, yeah, well,
But
but
at
it
least it was
was
day 2, right? If it was day
okay.
1, that would have been worse.
But for the most part, it sounds like it was a great trip. Were you able to get any reading or watching done over the
Right, right.
holidays?
That's always the question, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, watch Spirited. I talking about Act 2. They just did a podcast episode about Spirited, which is that movie with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds
Hmm.
on Apple TV, and it's basically the Christmas Carol, but with Scrooge rethought, as Scrooge is now. Oh, I won't spoil anything. So
Okay.
Scrooge rethought. Really, I thought fun. They both seem to enjoy it too, and I always disagree with their critiques of movies, so that's kind of funny. Like I listen to them, and they're like, "But there's no theme," and I'm like, "But the theme is obvious." So I want to like this is my counter to you guys if you listen to this ever. I don't like Top Gun Maverick too. I'm like the theme is like all throughout there, like it's pointed on the screen. It's right there in your face. But yeah. Anyway, so I enjoyed the
They used to
movie.
say Josh does love his Top Gun Maverick.
Me too. I just watched that again for the second time, like
Oh,
yesterday. So I put it
wow.
on while I was doing my work, as you know, I like to do. So, oh,
Hmm.
I was listening to a podcast or an audiobook. There's a new audiobook that I want to shout out to right now. I'm
Sure.
pulling it up as we talk. And in the audiobook called The Writer's Room by, I'm going to mess up her name, Nicole, something like that, Levy,
Okay.
Niceole, Levy.
It's
And
not
it,
Nicole?
I don't know, it might be, but I think she pronounced it differently because it's
Oh,
spelled
okay.
Niceole.
Mm.
The Writer's Room Survival Guide, and it's great. And anyway, she was talking about she always has to have TV on while she's writing, and I was like, oh, a kindred spirit. And then she said it's a, I don't know, ADHD or a young person's thing or something. I'm like, oh, maybe there's like a whole group of people that are weird like me out there who have to have like TV or something going on while they're writing to be able to stay focused.
I just had see that's the thing is I'll put on Pandora while I write. I
Yeah,
don't mind the music because to me it's just white noise because
yeah,
I
music's
can't
great.
write in silence because that's almost too like distracting. So but the music I don't find distracting at all. So that
Yeah,
I think that helps. But again, like my daughter likes to have the TV on while she does her homework.
yeah,
I don't know if I was allowed to do that when I was her age, but
yeah. My mom tried to fight me on that one a lot, and I was like, listen, I'm getting A's, I'm doing my
mhm.
homework, I'm watching Braveheart for the 100th time. Leave me alone.
Of
And
course.
she did. So
See,
yeah.
let's see. I watched Bullet Train. That's on Netflix.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
That
Right.
was fun. I mean, I'm glad I saw it on Netflix. I don't think I would have paid to see it in the theaters, but
Yeah.
I was really because I was really intrigued by it, and I thought it's almost like it's like a French bedroom farce almost with all the comings and goings of all the different
Right.
characters. And I thought the writer did a great job. Then I saw that it was adapted from a I think a
Book.
Japanese book, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, so then I was not as impressed with the writer because okay, they just adapted it. I just thought it was like they came up with this
Yeah.
completely on their own, but it was someone else's work.
Well,
But it
somebody
was
did though. Somebody came
yeah,
up with
that's
it on their
true.
own.
That's true. It was still fun. And what's been interesting is that I haven't rewatched the original movie probably since it originally came out. But Willow on Disney
Mhm.
Plus, I've been
Yeah.
watching that. It's interesting. It's
Yeah.
kind of like if the Disney Channel made Lord of the Rings. So it's very the action's very family friendly, and but the characters there's a lot of modern like 21st century type of dialogue for this supposedly medieval setting, and and a lot of pretty young people who are just they're and all of the things they go through.
Yeah.
It's I can see why they did it, but I think it's another one of those. Was this really necessary? But it's almost like a not as much of a cash grab as other things are, but it's okay. And I think it's too. I think because Lord of the Rings did it so much better. So it's almost kind of like, yeah, we're just gonna. It's a teenager's approach to, or it's a very clean cut teenager's approach to Lord of the Rings. Like, okay, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, that was fun. But did you see the new movie, the Puss in Boots one? Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it. I've actually heard a lot of good
Really
things
good
about
reviews.
it.
Yeah, it's like 95% Rotten Tomatoes for both critic and audience when we went
Okay.
and saw it, and we went and saw that too with the kids and had a blast. Our youngest was a little scared because it has some of those moments that feel like the action from the Spider-Man into this multiverse or Spider-Verse
Sure.
one, where it's very like intense and like loud music and like quick flashes.
Uh-huh.
But overall, it was a fun story and
Now,
well
did
told.
you see that in the theaters or is that
Yep.
streaming?
Oh yeah, we went to the theaters.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
cool. Oh, actually, that's something else we did. So here in beautiful, rainy right now, San Francisco, a local movie theater, a single screen theater, reopened after being closed for like two
Oh
and a
sweet.
half years. Well, it used to be three screens, but the two smaller rooms are, I think, going to be used for something else. But the main auditorium, which probably has like 180, 200 seats, so they spent a lot of time renovating the whole place, and they reopened early December. And so they're not really doing first run things. It's kind of like an art house type of thing, but they're showing everything. And so my wife and I went to see that Christmas classic on Christmas Eve of Die Hard.
Oh
So
sweet.
which I had not seen on the big screen, I think, since probably college. But oh, it still holds up. It's so much fun, and the audience was so into it. And it was just a great experience. And like I don't think it gets more Christmassy than that. Just seeing that on Christmas Eve.
I had to watch that again by myself because I know my wife won't be into it. So I put it on for the Christmas
Sure.
dishwashing or something.
Okay.
Yes. So our plan today is to do a little chat time about plans for 23, right? We did some
Yes,
brief
exactly.
recaps just now, kind of what's going on, where we've been working on. So yeah. Any big plans so far? Do you have a strategy?
Um,
We actually, I'll just say we sat down and wrote out like a map, my wife and I both did, of
hmm.
like where we want to be by the end of 23, what's like we should be, and then what's like we would be all super happy if we were, and like little paths along the road. So
Hmm.
I got some stuff ready for you, but let's go you
Okay.
first.
Well, it's interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I went to a lunch with a writers group, and as it was starting to wrap up, one of the members said, "Okay, everybody, so what are the three things you want to accomplish writing wise in 23?" And so I got to go like second to last, which was good because it was really fascinating hearing everybody else talk about it. But as they were talking, I kept thinking like, what do I want to accomplish? So I think for me, the biggest thing is I want to finish two scripts. One is a rewrite and potentially a new one. And if I can get more than that done, that'd be great. There's a short that I've been really trying to get made for almost maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I just keep kind of dragging my feet. I really want to kind of like light that fire under my ass and really get it happening. So hopefully that. Representation would be nice, but it's not mandatory. It would be really nice to have, but I'm not going to really like knock myself trying to get it. Well, as you already know, I'm going to go to Austin in
Oh
October, so I'm
yeah.
looking forward to that. So the script that I finished on New Year's Eve, I think I've got maybe like one, possibly two more polishes, and I'm going to send that to like Austin and the Nickel and Page and maybe one other contest, and that's pretty much it. But
Sweet.
and for the other stuff, I mean, probably just the occasional reading for friends and giving notes and that sort of thing. So really just kind of kind of like taking it easy almost, but really still staying active with trying to get my own writing done, and also just trying to make my writing better, because I think working on this script, that it really helped up the level of my craft. I think it's better than stuff I've done before. So I'm kind of really excited about it, and hopefully the notes I get in the next couple of weeks will really help kind of even elevate it even more. So yeah, I think it's just to focus on me for for 23.
Focus on me for 23. I
Mm-hmm.
like it. A little rhyme action going there.
Sure, sure.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's all good plans. And so Austin Film Festival, submit some scripts for that and others, and focus on me. I wonder, are there any like specific courses you think you want to take, or books you want to read, or do you feel like you're
I
not
think
really
I'm
in that
kind of,
phase anymore?
I think I'm kind of past the books thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, every once in a while a new book comes. I mean, I got Bob Sines's book, partially because I know him,
yeah.
and you know him too, and also it was a really helpful book. It was really good, but I think if I had had that book like when I started, I think I'd probably be in a much different place, maybe further along. But I, I'm not actively seeking out new books, probably because I've read enough over the years.
Yeah.
And in terms of courses, that's really a tough call. I mean, I I I don't know if I'm really the course kind of a person, because I think just because I
Right.
read on my own schedule.
And as
Um,
we talked about with film festivals and stuff, it's kind of the same, like where a lot of the panels are stuff that you're familiar with, you kind of know. So there's no,
mhm.
most courses are going to be the same. I will recommend though that everybody reads a book that we've probably talked about before called My Story Can Beat Up Your Story. I think that's an amazing book.
It
It's
sounds familiar.
so good. It's probably the one that I'll put in my pocket, if it was small enough, and just carry with
Hmm.
me everywhere. I love
Sure.
it for reference. And then he has a little course that I saw that's on Udemy for like $35. And then Udemy has a thing going on sometimes where they leave sales all the time and whatnot. So you can probably get it for like $10 at some point.
Sure.
And it's just like that was how to write a TV drama.
Mhm.
And I think this guy's super smart. So I'm super amped up on trying to one of my goals for 23 is like I write and I enjoy writing, but I don't feel like if you were like, hey, sit down and explain everything you think is super important to be in a screenplay and then like why it's important and all the different elements of it. I feel like that's kind of like where I'm like, why? I just write a story. I don't need to do that. If I want it, I can have it up on my screen with me as I'm looking at it. But I
Mhm.
want to start being able to actually have my Bible, which is, not a actual religious sense, but in a screenwriting sense, and be able to
Sure.
like
Sure.
reference that. And that would be this book. And then basically I'll say, well, here's what I want. And here's what I'm thinking needs to be in the story. So I have like Save the Cat memorized, and I have all those other books memorized because, you just read them when you're younger. And now it's been like 10 years in my brain.
Yeah.
And, but I don't really think, for a couple of reasons, I don't really reference those to the same degree. Like for one, that they're kind of frowned upon in some circles. Like if you're like, but save the cat, you're gonna get some
Oh.
eye
Oh.
rolls.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
but this one I just think is so good. If anybody eye rolled me over, my story could beat up your story. I'll punch them. So yeah.
Wow, that's quite an endorsement. Well, how do you feel about coaching? Because that's something I've thought about, but I've never really pulled the
Yeah.
trigger on it. Because I'm constantly getting emails from well-known script consultants and career consultants about like, hey, if you sign up with me, and I can help you. Not it's not guaranteed, but I can help you get like maybe start establishing a foothold for your career as a writer.
Yeah, it depends what you mean, I guess. Like Joey Tuccio, right? With a
Well,
roadmap and those.
like Roadmap is one of them, and also there's Lee Jessup. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Lee. Yeah, she's a really nice person. But I think part of my hesitation is just because they're so expensive.
Right,
So
right.
like some of them are like a couple $1,000s, and that's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if I was talking to somebody and they're like, I succeeded because of that thing, and that's why I just wrote that movie that you love, and you're asking about me right now, then I'd consider it probably. But I don't think I've ever met somebody like that. You meet people who, endorse and say good things about, but
Hmm.
yeah, personally, I probably wouldn't do it. I think there's some great people out there who give notes on scripts. I have somebody I'm using right now who I'm obsessed with, and he only charges like $90. So I'm like, that's
Mm,
awesome
that
to get
is
some good
good.
notes. And then sometimes I'll go and do like a round two with Script Mechanic, who everybody also loves, right?
Oh yeah, Andrew.
Andrew
Hmm.
Hilton, is that his
Yeah.
name?
Hmm.
Um, so I think those are good things. That's kind of similar. Like if you're doing this and you're doing it enough time, you're kind of getting their consulting in a way, right? But then you get like Joey and them are awesome because they'll actually guide you to the next stages, right? And like help advise you on getting a
Right.
manager and representation and all that stuff. So I think if you have a lot of money and you're like, hey, I want to succeed faster, then why not? But I think for a lot of us, we're probably not even at the stage where we're ready to be. Me and you, of course, you and I are ready. But like
That's what they
5 years
keep
ago, I would
telling
have been
me.
like, I want to hire a consultant to help me get through this, but I
Uh-huh.
probably wouldn't have been ready for it. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's necessary.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's honest. I mean, it's something I've thought about, and I always think about it when those emails come in. I look at it and I think, oh yeah, that sounds really good. Then I see how much it costs. I'm like, I can't do that right now.
And is it
So,
any different from just getting a manager and like listening to their advice?
um, that's the thing, is that I like with Roadmap, like you can do. I haven't looked at it in a while. I'm trying to think if it's like you send them your script, and it's like 250 for like an hour long review of your script.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know if they're giving notes or what, but the thing is that I mean, it's Roadmap, so they're probably a little more vetted, like especially because I haven't worked with them in years. As I was doing like the pay to pitch type of thing with Stage 32, but that was like wow, 5 or 7 years ago, and that just seemed like that was just a money grab to me, because I would get the people I was pitching to just they were so bored, and I would get like 2 to 3 sentence of generic responses. They couldn't
Yeah.
get into the characters. It's like, well, and like, this I shelled out, 35, $40. And so there's that. I've also, when it first started up, I was doing the Blacklist,
Right. Right.
but
Blacklist 2.0.
that's also started to add up as well.
Oh, it's
So
expensive as hell. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
125 or $150 now to put a script up there if you want to get 2 sets of notes.
Oh
Like,
man.
holy cow. And it's better to get 2 sets because one, you don't know what you're gonna get. I mean, it's
Right.
always a crapshoot because it's just readers like
Hmm.
us. But I went to the Roadmap Christmas event that we might or might not have talked about, and I thought that was awesome. And I met a
I
lot of
think you
cool
did
people
mention that.
there, and
Hmm.
everybody was talking about how great it was and like enjoying how they enjoy Roadmap. So good things to say there. Personally, I feel like I'm not at a point to spend lots of money on stuff like that.
Sure.
And I feel like I had a manager, right? And then I'm talking to some new managers. So I feel like they're going to pretty much fulfill that same role. So yeah, we'll see.
That's
So for
cool.
23, my quick version.
Yeah.
So I busted out my paper here to look at what I had written down. And a lot of it was like writing down what I had done in the last year to kind of get, and what I look at 22 and before is about establishing street cred. So like now I have my resume
Hmm.
built. I got my street
Okay.
cred, with like working at DJ2 and working on certain properties that are kind of games and hybrid TV games, like doing the Silent Hill thing that I worked on, which is kind of a well-known property, working, getting Game of Thrones credits and all that back in the day,
Hmm.
publishing lots of books and all that. So I feel like that's kind of doing the podcast. That's the street cred. So now going forward is about the next steps in the career. And for me, it's all about right now, I want to go WGA. I want to get in a writer's room on TV. And, the end state being by the end of 23, I want to be in a room, or at least have been in a room. And with the progression towards someday being a showrunner and selling features. And if at the end of the 23, somebody was like, hey, you ready to be a showrunner? Let's do it. I'd be like, let's try. But as long as I'm like in a room at some point over the next year, so that's like on my resume, that's something I have the experience to talk about. And hopefully that's toward the next step of my career, where in 24, 25, it's just all about being in rooms and then moving towards that goal of showrunner selling features. That's awesome. At the same time, I've been talking to a lot of screenwriters lately, or listening to podcasts and stuff, and there's a lot who are in those zones, but then they don't have jobs for like so long in between
Mm.
getting staffed, and then right now
Yeah.
is especially hard, and then the strike might happen.
Hmm.
So I'm also appreciating where I am, where like I'm having fun and I'm writing. So if there's a way to be in like a virtual room while I could still do the other things I'm doing, that would be amazing. Yeah, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna knock on wood, and I'm not gonna say no to anything in my brain right now. I'm just kind of like opening some doors and saying, these are what I want. If it all works out, cool. If there's roadblocks and I have to make decisions, I guess I'll figure that out in the moment.
No, that's really smart. I think that's good. I think it's great that you are open to both TV and films, because for me, it's just films. I mean, I'm not
Mm.
really interested in writing for TV. So that's why I focus on the ones I do. And
Right, right.
I just think that, I think if you kind of go at it with, what the long-term goal is, but you can also accomplish like maybe a couple of short-term goals along the way,
Mhm.
that it might help you gradually get to that long-term goal. Like for you being a showrunner,
Yeah.
and for getting into a room first, that, maybe, and I think going to that roadmap thing might have been the start of it, that maybe there'll be more in-person events that you can go to and network and
Yeah.
maybe make a connection. So I think, that's really, you're just kind of like laying the foundation for what you're hoping to build on.
Yeah, and to accomplish that, I'm going also to ATX this year. So I'm going to Austin Film
Oh,
Festival in
wow.
October, of course, but I'm going to look at the Austin. What is it called? I don't know what ATX stands for, but it's their television one, television focused. I've been told it's where
Okay.
all the showrunners hang out,
Okay.
and so everybody's telling me like it's so hard to get staffed. The only way to get staffed is to be buddies with showrunners right now, and I'm like, well, then I better be going to ATX, shouldn't I?
Hmm.
So I'm going to do that in June. I'm excited for that, June 1st through 4th, somewhere in that zone. And then there are right now already, like I just mentioned, I'm talking to 2 different manager groups,
Hmm.
debating about that. And then I have kind of 2/3 potential TV show things that could happen in the near future. And they're not huge. Like one's non-union, one I don't know if it's
Mm.
union, but it would be just like a one-off episode type thing.
Hmm.
And then the other one, we'll see. I'm not really sure the details yet. So there's like
That's
little
okay.
things that could happen. It's
Right.
Hollywood, so more often than not, everything just doesn't happen. But yeah, at least there's like things that are moving and conversations being had, and that's better than I was off a year ago, even. So
Mhm.
exciting times.
Well, yeah, that's what I found, is that because there's a whole bunch, like even on a production, it's hurry up and wait. So you send it, or you send something out, and yeah, of course you're going to obsess about it for the time being, but you also realize there's so much other stuff I got to get done. So like that's kind of it is with me, that there's something I'm waiting to hear back about, and rather just kind of like, oh, okay, I got to put on my calendar when I can do the follow up. I'll be like, okay, I'll do the follow up, schedule the follow up for like 3 weeks from now. I'm like, hey, what else can I work on now? And I'll I'll gradually forget that thing that comes up until the reminder pops up on my calendar saying, hey, don't forget to send to this person about the follow up. Like, oh my god, I forgot about that. And
Yeah.
so like, oh wow, and then I've been so busy since then.
Yeah, I've been talking to one guy. He was saying, I was like, so how many projects do you have going on right now? He's like, 9. It's like, oh my God, just the juggling, right? I'm like, and they were
Yeah.
big projects. So I'm not even talking about just like the little things I'm talking about. He's juggling like 9 serious projects. And I'm like, holy cow,
Hmm.
this is intense. So yeah, good on him. We got to get to that point, or at least I do. But both of the projects that I'm working on too, like the main things I'm doing right now, are talking about eventually doing TV. So
Uh-huh.
like in the back of my head, I'm also like, but if I just stay on my current path, I might be writing TV anyway. So I feel like there's some great things on this page in front of me that are like they're all kind of leading toward that path. And whether it's 23 will just get me on the right path, and then I'll
Hmm.
follow it, or 23 will be like the year. We'll see.
Yeah, I see. It's kind of like that for me. It's like with these two scripts, like this one I just finished, that I used to be kind of like I would ask anybody who I knew, like, "Hey, do you want to read this and give me notes?" But it also that I would get so many different opinions and comments about the script, and it would just make it even more complicated. So now, every time I finished a draft, I would contact like 3 people and say, "Can you give me notes?" And I would be very when I right after I send it, I would feel impatient about like what's taking them so long. But I'm like the same way. If someone asks me to read something, it takes me longer than I expect to get to it.
Yeah.
So I've learned that okay, I'll send it. I always tell them no rush, and a lot of times they take that to heart. So then I am able to focus on this like another project or two while I'm waiting. And
Yeah.
maybe if like a couple of weeks go by that's longer than even I anticipate, I'll just send them a note, say, "Hey, have you had a chance to read it?" And sometimes they'll be like, "Oh my god, I totally forgot," or something came up. And I've had people say like, "Oh, I had a family emergency," and so life happens. So it's just kind of like to learn to roll with the punches, so to speak, and
Awesome.
just kind of like, okay, this, I'll send it. Okay, it's out. It's out of my hands now. But just like what else can I work on now? And I think that really helps to not pass the time, but it helps me be productive because I'm not as focused on the one thing. I can focus, okay, that's done. I can focus on this other 2 or 3 things now. And I think that's really helped.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hoping to continue as the year goes on.
So based on what we've talked about so far, looking at other people in the world who are listening and thinking about what their strategy is going to be for 23, I would say uh, go to Austin Film Festival, everybody.
We'll be
Go to
there.
whatever festival that makes sense for your trajectory, right? What your
Sure.
path, your hopeful path. And like I hadn't gone to ATX before because I actually kind of in the past, like 4 years ago or something, I was like, more features, not really caring about TV. And then probably around 2 years ago, I started caring more about the TV route. So now I'm
Hmm.
getting serious about the TV route. And so I'm pursuing that. What else, based off what we've been talking about, or just other ideas, do you think people better be sure to keep on their 23 goal list
I
or
think
milestone list?
I think it's have several goals in mind, both short term and long term. Like, okay, what do you want to accomplish by the end of the year? But also,
Mhm.
what kind of smaller things can you accomplish over the course of the year? Like for you, it's it's these meetings and also getting stuff done. And for me, it's like getting at least these 2 scripts done and see if I can get this short made. It's just kind of like don't
Yeah.
just have one thing because if you obsess about that, then you're probably going to get distracted or something's going to happen to kind of like screw you up over the course of the year. But if you're like, okay, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this. So if you have several things to work on, I think that'll actually help keep you focused rather than kind of like distracted and disoriented.
Yeah, and I would say that I've always been a fan of that, like having multiple doors that could open. Because if you're just like waiting on that one in front of you, it might happen, it might not. You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I would advise people put like for what I'm doing with the book, like pick a new book you haven't tried before. If you're still in the learning stage, I think I'm always going to be still in the learning stage. It's just who I am. So I'm always looking for like some new thing to read. Like I'm enjoying that writer's room book that I talked about. That
Hmm.
and that's not about craft. It's just what it's like to be in a writer's room. And so I want to get my head around the terms and everything. So I'm listening to that. It's fun, audiobook. And picking the My Story Can Beat Up Your Story if you feel like you want to get theme and these little elements of character and stuff more in your brain ingrained. Do something like that. Of course, Blacklist just came out. Not the Blacklist website, like Blacklist 2.0, but the Blacklist of like all the lists that all the agents or managers whatever recommend. And read some of those. I definitely recommend David L. Williams, Clementine. I've been reading that one. Just read the first 20 pages, even if you don't have time, and you'll probably just read the rest because you
Well,
enjoy
I was
it.
going to say it's a page turner. Yeah, actually, I read it. Wow, before he became a name. Yeah, so I got to read that. Well, yeah,
Nice.
before he got repped, and yeah, he was on the Blacklist with that script this past year. So big congratulations to him. Yeah, I think that's another thing also to maybe try and do over the course of the year is just read stuff, not just read stuff for fun, but also read stuff like what can you learn from it? Okay, what did this writer do, and how did they do it, and is there anything that you can take away from it? And which I think you should really do with every script that you read.
Yes. Here's an idea for a next episode, by the way, and I'll say it here because it's like a hook to get them to listen, to stay tuned.
Sure.
Management, representation. What are we looking for in reps? Like you're querying right now. I'm querying / talking to some people. I had one before and I split paths. And so it might be interesting to talk about our reasons for what we might split paths, or our reasons for saying yes or no to certain people, and how we sell ourselves as well. So let's put that on our brains, and then people, now you have a reason to check back in every week to be like, did they put that one out yet? Where's that one about management? So yes, let's do it.
That is a good point, because that's something a lot of people think, like as soon as they get an agent or a manager, like, oh, I'm all set, I don't have to do anything. And then turns out you got a lot more to do now.
Yeah. Like, give me a manager guy. I just need a rep. But I'm like, nah, not necessarily. Think about it. Cool. All right. Anything else you want to add for 23?
I just think here's hoping that it is a productive year for us getting our own stuff done, but also seeing some nice progress for our careers. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, we'll have some good updates. Let's do like a 6-month update. I mean, we update every single time we do this, but we'll have a good follow-up.
That's true. That's true.
Cool. All right. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. We'll have to make sure
Happy
this
New
episode goes live before too long, so it doesn't feel weird when this releases in July. But yeah.
Oh, God, I hope not. Let's at least shoot for February at least.
Yeah.
Or at least the end of the month.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Once again, this has been the Creative Writing Life podcast. Please leave reviews. Please go out there and tell everybody you know. And once again, I'm Justin. You can find my books on Amazon.
And I'm Paul. You can check out my screenwriting blog, maximumz.blog. I've got books on Amazon too, the Go Ahead and Ask series, interviews about screenwriting and Pi, volumes 1 through 3. I'm on Twitter at maximum_Z, also on Instagram at Pez Screenwriting, PEZ. Those are my initials. Like you said, he's Justin. I'm Paul. This has been the Creative Writing Life podcast. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy. Have a great 2023. Most importantly, go write something.